Okay, strap yourself in, boys and girls, because apparently this game is going to be a long one. I'm not complaining. I love long games. I prefer them. It's always awesome to watch players introduce all the interesting late game tech and escalation. It's very fun to watch giant explosions and massive displays of carnage. So yeah, you won't hear me complaining, certainly. And let's introduce our players. We've got Rampage in the pink trunks, the ARM Commander. It looks like he has gone K-Bot first. And in the orange trunks, we have Lordvedor, and he is the Core Commander. And he's also gone K-Bot first, which is a little strange, I think. On this map, I would probably go Vehicle first, but, that's why they don't pay me the big bucks. So, this map is called the Gauntlet, and I think it's pretty obvious why, if you just look at this kind of nasty hallway here between the two ends. These two bays, I guess you could call them. You have the Gauntlet. Very cool, very cool. I haven't actually seen this map before, so I'm excited to see how it plays out. And what we have is Lordvedor sending some AKs up into Rampage's base. Nothing too outrageous here. Just a couple of AKs. He's probably just doing a little bit of scouting, a little bit of harassing, just trying to see what's up, just trying to get a bead on what his opponent is doing. And this map, just the way it's designed, like I said, is probably going to favor a longer game, just because it's there's a huge surface area to take into account. And so, all right, you can stop that. So here at the top, there was a little bit of harassment. It seemed like one of Lordvedor's AKs killed a metal extractor, but nothing too catastrophic up there. And down here, we just have Lordvedor making another K-Bot lab, building a Geo. Pretty expected, I'd say. And up at the top, we've got Rampage. He's gone for Vehicles second. And also building his Geo, which is pretty normal if you've ever played Total Annihilation. I mean, I assume most of the people watching right now, most of my viewers probably know this already, but in case you didn't, geothermal power plant is a very cost-efficient way to get energy. It provides 300 energy. I think, at least in the original, it did 300 energy, and the solar's only produced 25, so it produces like 12 solars worth of energy for a fraction of the cost. It is very cost effective, but if it dies, it creates a massive explosion that kind of takes everything with it. Everything around it is kind of caught in the mushroom cloud. Now in escalation, it's really neat because these things can be upgraded. So the ARM Geo gets like missile launchers that are pretty neat, pretty good defense, and then the core geothermal gets riot cannons, which are very good for defending against skirmishers. It's definitely good for defending against raiders, like scouts, Jeffies, but also pretty good against Peewees and AKs and flashes and things of that nature. So very cool that you can upgrade the Geos in escalation. And here in the middle, we have the makings of what might be our first big skirmish. It looks like the two players are just kind of feeling each other out a little bit. They're just kind of testing the waters, just kind of doing a little footwork, seeing what happens. And but so far, no big battles, no no epic clash of epic proportions. But Lordvedor is moving in with his AKs, and he's going to move back. The AKs should have a little bit of range on these on the Peewees and Flashes, which have the same weapon. They both use the EMG weapon, which is a little shorter range, I would think, than the AKs. So there is a little bit of micro potential, but not much. I mean, I could be wrong about that. It could be that they have the same range, but typically the lasers are a lot more accurate at max distance. But the thing is, these javelins, they definitely can't be outranged by the AK. In fact, I think it's almost a certainty that the javelins outrange the AKs, which means that as long as he has these in his army, Lordvedor is kind of going to be on the defensive. And so that's what you see. Rampage is staying true to his name here and just rampaging down into Lordvedor's territory. But it looks like he's held it off pretty well. And Lordvedor has now teched to T2, and he has begun to mass produce pyros here. Pyros are a core T2 unit. They're very fast. I mean, they're faster than these javelins, you can see, and they do a lot of damage. They don't have the most health. They're a little on the weaker side, but they put out the damage, and they're fast. So they're very good skirmishers, especially against close range things, but these javelins can outrange them, so they do have to close the gap there. And it looks like Rampage will clean up that fight. So let's look at their bases a little bit. Rampage is on T2 now. He is now building Panthers. Panther is it's like a hybrid lightning tank. Its main weapon is a lightning cannon, but it also has an anti-air functionality, so if the enemy player builds any kind of bombers or gunships, it can, in a pinch, protect against that. And let's look here at Lordvedor's base. He is building this riot cannon I was talking about earlier to protect his geo in case Rampage decides to do anything sneaky. In case he decides to do a little raid here, this riot cannon will provide some protection. And let's see what else. He's building some Moho extractors. Nothing out of the ordinary there. And that's about it. Let's see what's going on here. Pyros are clashing with the Panthers. Generally speaking, Pyros are going to beat Panthers just because they're faster and they do more damage. Panthers are strong. They probably outrange the Pyros a little bit. But, well, no, it doesn't even look like they do. Yeah, Panthers are strong. And if he has enough of them, he can deal with the Pyros. But it just really depends on how they micro the engagements. So the Pyros are really going to want to get on top of the Panthers and just kind of DPS them down with their flamethrower. And the Panthers are going to want to try to stay at range if they can, try to kite, try to keep the Pyros from closing in on them, because essentially the way the flamethrower works is like the closer you can get, the more guaranteed damage you can get with it. It's just like in some ways, just like a real flamethrower, right? Like the closer you are to your target, the better. And so it looks like Lordvedor has countered by building some storms. This isn't a bad idea. The storms are going to outrange the Panthers. He can kind of kite him, keep him at a distance. If he micros it well, he might be able to just slowly whittle down Rampage's force of Panthers and just keep him at a disadvantage. Maybe win a war of attrition. It all really depends on micro. At this point, this game has become a very micro-oriented test of wills, because there's these unit compositions are both strong, but they both require micro to be utilized fully. So, for example, if Rampage had gone Bulldogs, and here you already see the Bulldogs, Those require much less micro. They have longer range and they're very tanky, and you can just kind of, smash your face against the keyboard and send those in, and they'll be much more effective than Panthers, like I said, which are, in this situation at least, require heavy micro. So I was just about to say, as soon as Rampage starts spamming Bulldogs, this whole dynamic is going to change. The dynamic of this fight is completely different, because now Lordvedor has to do something. He needs to do something. He either needs to push in now, which it's too late. I mean, the Bulldogs are just so incredibly powerful against this composition that he has. Bulldogs fire. They fire relatively quickly because they have 2 cannons, and their cannons also do a relatively large AoE explosion. And so, for this force of mostly weak, Storms and Pyros just don't have the most health. MAKs have a little more, but this composition is mostly weak in terms of HP pool, as compared to, say, something like a Can or a Sumo. This is what I'm saying is this is just Bulldog food. Okay, like the Bulldogs are just going to tear through this, and if Lordvedor, he'll probably recognize this, that at the level these players are at, Lordvedor will likely retreat as soon as he engages with this. As soon as he sees what's happening, he's like, eh. Oh, okay, he's going to try to go in there, but as I said, this is folly. This is just disgusting. This is going to be disgusting. Again, Bulldogs are very good against this composition, which is why I predicted it. So what Lordvedor needs to do here, he needs to start building Sumos. Sumos would counter Bulldogs if he got a sufficient number of them. Dominators would be okay too if he could keep them at a range. Okay, he's going down the left side here with some Panthers now. Let me slow it down. This is getting a little too real. Okay. So while he's keeping the main army busy with Bulldogs, he's going down. He's trying to flank into Vader's base with Panthers, and it didn't work so well. It looked like Vader was prepared for it. Again, as I was saying earlier, Vader's army composition was much better suited for Panthers than it was for Bulldogs. I would say Vader's mistake in this situation was not pressing his advantage. I think with the army composition he had, at some point there was a timing window where he probably could have attacked and maybe won an engagement in the middle, but then there are these Sentinels as well, and that would have made life very difficult. But in some ways, Vader has kind of boxed himself into a corner with this army composition. It just doesn't work against Bulldogs. That's my main concern. Bulldogs are very well-rounded. It's like the ARM mainstay unit of the T2 vehicles. It's just an incredibly well-rounded and especially good against weaker, spammier types of units. He's also bringing in some Lugers, which is the core T2 artillery unit. This will be a great way to pressure Vader into coming out. So if he essentially rampages utilizing the fact that he has an advantage in terms of army composition by building these T2 mobile artillery, which allows him to just kind of pelt his opponent right from afar, and then when Vader comes to respond, then he brings the Bulldogs in and punishes them for trying to attack his Lugers. But he really needs to keep the Bulldogs close if he's gonna do this kind of bait strategy where he just slowly whittles away his opponent through a war of long range attrition. Then he's gonna have to keep his Bulldogs close, or this isn't gonna work so well. All right, let's look at what's going on. Let's speed it up. So Lordvedor has some strategic bombers in his back pocket. It looks like he could be going for a commander snipe. That's an option. That's an easy. I mean, it is a way to win when you're behind, and I would say that Lordvedor. Let's check out the. In terms of money, I mean money. Good lord. In terms of metal, they're pretty similar. They look pretty similar, 155 to 141, and energy. So economy isn't really the issue here. Again, it's an issue of army composition. That is, whatever. As an observer, that's what I'm concerned with here. That's the main imbalance I see between these two players in this particular game, is that the army composition heavily favors Rampage. Now, like I said, that doesn't mean that Lordvedor can't win. If he has strategic bombers, nothing's out of the question. He could definitely go for a commander snipe, or even snipe. He could snipe these fusion reactors. If he took out one, it would take out all this, probably. He could go for this line of energy storages. Those would be the best targets, I think. So, in the middle, let me slow it down. It looks like Lordvedor is pushing with his force, but again, I just don't know how effective this is going to be. Bulldogs are just extremely appropriate. They're extremely effective against this particular composition, and he can just kind of run and kite while Lordvedor attempts to chase him, but already he's running out of units, and the Bulldogs have just come on. It wasn't really that close of a fight, right? And that comes down to, like I said before, it's a question of army composition. The Bulldogs are just very strong against what Vader's building here. He needs to build sumos. Mortys would be okay, I guess, if he kept everything he could kind of kite with Mortys or Dominators. Just anything really to outrange those Bulldogs, I think, is a huge thing. Now, Lordvedor is sending a Hurricane up here. I'm not sure why. He basically, maybe it was a micro mismanaged, but it just kind of flew up. But both players are doing really well here. I think, again, this is a very close game. It could go either way. And it looks like Lordvedor is going for T3 K-Bot. And I believe, yeah, Rampage is going for T3 vehicles. So this will be interesting. It'll be the war of T3 K-Bot versus vehicles. Again, the composition as of now still favors Rampage quite a bit. He's got some of these spiders. And I believe that the spiders are an arm unit that paralyzes. So it paralyzes your opponent. It paralyzes enemy units. And that would be a very good tool for kind of disabling Lordvedor's army, which allows the Bulldogs to do even more damage. So, yeah, again, it's still a pretty close game. Let's see what goes on. Lordvedor is still sticking to this same composition of pyros and looks like MAKs. He took out the regular AKs, which is good, I guess, but it's still not great against what he's facing. And they're going for T2. Okay, so Lordvedor is building an arbitrator. This is an interesting choice. The arbitrator is basically like a mobile mini nuke. That's how I'm characterizing it. It shoots huge tactical missiles that explode in a large area. And that could potentially be good against the Bulldogs if he could get them all in a clump and then land the tactical nuke in the middle of them. That's a strategy, I guess, for dealing with them, or at least getting them low enough health that his pyros could clean it up. He is building some Dominators, so that's good. That's kind of what I was referring to earlier, that Dominators could potentially be good in this situation if he could keep the Bulldogs at a range. Let's see. At the front, Rampage is building some bulwarks. And these are an ARM T2 defense. It's a hybrid defense. It's good against both air and land. It just kind of shoots an endless barrage of rockets at the opponent until they die. And it looked like Rampage is just doing a little scouting there. So, okay, let's see what what Rampage is doing. He's building a Mirage. And what else? What else is happening? We've got 2 fusion reactors up here, another fusion reactor over there, some T1 bombers. Let's see what's down here. He's building Dominators. He's got a ton of Mohos. It's kind of what you'd expect. He's still working on this Arbitrator, but he's almost finished. He's got 1 fusion here. I think they're just scouting. I don't think I'm missing anything. It's that scouts are flying over and they're getting absolutely obliterated by anti-air. So it's nothing. You're not really missing anything. It's just, I think the player's kind of getting a feel for what their opponent is doing. This is a very weird position to be in for either player because... Oh, here we go. I'll hold that thought. So Lordvedor is doing an attack here. Or maybe he thought about doing an attack. Like I said, these Dominators can do some work. If he could get some vision here of the Bulldogs, he could kind of keep them at a range with these Dominators and just slowly whittle them down. He sent his Hawks in here, maybe just a scout. But again, if he can keep these Dominators at a range, he could do some serious work. But he needs to micro them back. He needs to micro them back right now. Oh, micro him back. Micro him back. Okay. Okay, this is working. These Dominators are doing a good job. Oh, man, the front line just kind of collapsed. All the Pyros are gone. But if he keeps using these... No, 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 back. Move back, move back. Yeah, he needs to move these back. He built a sumo, like I suggested earlier. In the meantime, it looks like Rampage is going down the right side with some Mirages, which is a... it's like an ARM T2 Raider tank. Very good for these kinds of quick raids. And, oh, here's Lordvedor's Arbitrator, but oh my god! He just shot a missile at his own base. That's not what you want. That's an absolute disaster. He shot a missile at his own base on accident, and I think he lost his Arbitrator in the process. He basically just nuked himself. And on the left side we have some Bulldogs coming down. I think that Arbitrator died. I don't see it anymore. I think maybe its missile killed itself, or maybe... I'm not sure, but it's gone. Somehow it died. So again, he's bringing down more Mirages, which again are the ARM T2 kind of Raider. Very good for getting into your enemy's back line and doing a ton of damage. Here we have a Talos, which is like, I don't know, I think it's kind of like a mini... It certainly looks like a mini Krogoth. But it's, you know, it's a T3... Yeah, it's just, it looks like a mini Krogoth. I mean, what else? Like, why? Oh, here we go. Bomber run down the middle. Pretty neat. He doesn't have a ton of air defense in his army right now, so that's not a bad idea. The Dominators are doing okay against air, but now he's bringing his Hawks up, so it might be tough to continue these bombing runs if he has Hawks on the patrolling over his army. So yeah, let me slow it down here a little bit. Rampage has a pretty formidable defense at the front, so it's going to be hard to break this line. He does have a Talos here, so that it's missile spam central, and it should be able to take care of this particular Rampage army pretty well. But he does have a lot of spiders. Those spiders are going to start paralyzing everything. You'll see all the Dominators. They're gonna get paralyzed. But the Talos is going to be very hard to paralyze. I think it is possible, but the T3 units in general have a higher resistance to paralyzation. And so it's going to take a lot. But it looks like he was successful in paralyzing it, and so this Talos is going to go down. And I thought Lordvedor's army could win that, but maybe just the defenses. He does have a lot of defenses. The Ambusher is incredibly powerful in TA escalation. He's got a Guardian here. He's got 2 Bulwarks. So there's a lot of defense there. Very tough to break. And he has another Talos here, which should be able to clean up this this stuff pretty easily. But he does have more coming down. Let's look at the mega map. Yeah, he does have more coming down. So let's look at what the players are doing. Okay, yeah, I apologize. The Mirage, why was I saying at T2? The Mirage is a T3 Raider, so it's relatively fast for a T3 unit. It has quite a bit of health, and it's just good for raiding. So and I think it has stealth. It's invisible to radar. So this is a very good unit if you're trying to get into your opponent's back line or just do kind of a flash raid, blitzkrieg on them. And so far it seems to be working better than I expected, certainly. The sumo, he is building a sumo here, and I really think he should have been building sumos from the beginning. Sumos would have been good against pretty much everything that Rampage has built so far. Sumos are obviously very slow. That's their drawback, is they're kind of slower than molasses. But on this particular map, where you're forced to go down to the gauntlet, sumos are incredibly good, especially in this situation. I think if he had about 10 sumos, this might be a totally different game. But right now, we're kind of at a... Let me speed it back up. We're kind of at a lull here. He is building sumos now. That's good. And he's building more Talos. And let's see. That's about it. He's just upgrading his economy, sumos, and Talos, and looks like Hawks. And let's see what his opponent's doing. Rampage is building... Still building Mirage? I don't know if I would keep building Mirages in this situation. He needs something to break through. Mirages aren't really designed for battle. They're better as a raiding... a raiding vehicle, or kind of a hardcore. I mean, they are. I mean, they're still T3s, so they are still pretty tanky, but they're also short ranged and they don't have as much health. I think you should build Centurions. Centurions would be really good in this situation, especially if you could get the upgrade center going. It looks like he is building Mantle Extractor, so he's upgrading his economy to T3. And what else? What else is going on? Building some Moho Metal Makers. He's got some Phoenixes here, so he might be going for a sneaky bombing run. We'll have to see what happens with that. Okay, so it looks like Lordvedor is going for another push here. I have to say I love his army composition a lot more than I did before. I think he needs more sumos. I think he needs about twice as many. If he had about 10 sumos. Excuse me. If he had about 10 sumos, I think he'd be in good shape right here. But even with what he has, I think he's in a much better position. I think this is a great army composition for what he's currently facing. But he needs to keep these spiders at a distance. He doesn't need to get paralyzed. He needs to make sure that he stays out of range of those spiders so that they can't just make his units totally useless like he is right here. In the meantime, it looks like... wow, I missed it. I'm sorry, but I was wrong. Rampage used those Mirages to get around Vader's defenses. He went down the right side of the map. Let me show you. He went down here, kind of swung around, and then took out his commander. So, yeah, it just shows that this is part of the reason I love escalation, is there is so much room there's so many different play styles. It's probably not what I would have done, but it was a very creative thing to take those Mirages, which I said are incredibly fast, kind of raider vehicles designed to get around your opponent's defenses and wreak havoc with their economy, and with their production, and that's what he did. And it happened so fast that even I couldn't keep up with it. So that's what happened. It was a really close game. I think both the players did really well, but I think Rampage they had very similar economies. Overall, they were very balanced throughout the game in terms of their production. But overall, I think Rampage had a much better composition of units, and I think his build composition is ultimately what won him that game. If Lordvedor had gone Sumos earlier, I think it could have been a very different game. Sumos were really good against in everything he was building, including the Mirages. If he had a Sumo wall in front of those Mirages, they just would have gone nowhere, because Sumos do so much damage and they're just tanks, right? They're just walls. So it was a really interesting game, and I'm excited to see game 2. So let's get to it. Okay, this is game 2 of Rampage versus Lordvedor, and here in the orange trunks is Lordvedor, the core commander, going K-Bot first, and in the blue trunks we have Rampage with the armed commander going K-Bot first, and it looks like they're both building the Flea or Termite, which is the core equivalent, which allows them to reclaim all of the the nice trees and foliage and rocks, give their economy a little boost at the beginning. I loved the first game. It was a wonderful game. I'm looking forward to it. Another great game between these two guys. These guys do apparently love big maps. This map is called Diverging Boundaries. I don't expect any kind of short game on a map like this. There's a huge distance between them, and there's only really one land bridge that connects both sides, which could be easily walled off, literally or metaphorically. I do have to apologize. I went back and looked at through the first game, and I missed some key moments in that game. There was a moment around the middle of the game where Lordvedor did a bombing run with hurricanes, and I completely missed it. I think it got shut down mostly. So, but it was still my fault for not catching that. So I do apologize, guys. All right, I'm still working out the kinks of this. This is the first time I've ever casted Escalation, and so I'm still kind of getting used to the technology and getting used to panning around the map at the things that are important and all that. But just stick with me. This is good. We're gonna get better. We're gonna keep casting these games. There's a ton of games in this tournament, and I'm just as excited as you guys to watch them and see how this unfolds. This game in itself, I'm sure, is going to be awesome. And let's get into it. We've got here at the beginning, we've got Rampage sending out some Pee-wees, and it looks like Lordvedor did send some AKs at the beginning, and they just kind of didn't really achieve much, but he probably was just scouting mostly, maybe trying to get a few kills here and there. If he can pick off a metal extractor, then maybe it's worth it. Like I said, I don't expect too much play here at the start, just because of the nature of the way this map is designed. You have literally one path between the bases, which can be walled off relatively easy with just units or defenses or literal dragon's teeth, building a literal wall. So I don't expect much action at the start. I think the players are probably just going to try to, demarcate their own positions, build the Great Wall of China and say, stay out of my territory. And but already the players' builds have diverged a little bit. We have Rampage going vehicles second, and we have Lordvedor going hovercrafts. No, I prefer Lordvedor's build here. I think hovercrafts are really a good choice on this map. It essentially turns it into a flat map instead of just having one little narrow pathway. The whole map, the whole river becomes available to you, and already he's utilizing this advantage with his scrubbers, which is like the core rating hovercraft. It's the core rating hovercraft that that can kind of get into the enemy line, take out metal extractors, and just be a general nuisance. And it seems like what he's trying to do. Rampage has smartly built some defenders, which will mostly curtail this attack, and he has a LLT there as well. So didn't get much done with that, but I still think hovercrafts are the right choice. I still think on this map it gives you a wonderful opportunity to attack from many different angles instead of just being confined to this one little land bridge. But Rampage is he is building javelins. Javelins are pretty good against AKs. So if they do get into a fight in the middle, the javelins are going to win. But the problem is once he hits this little wall of defenses here, that's going to be all she wrote. It's just going to be very, very tough to get past this position. And so that's why I kind of disagree with him going vehicle second. But he did go hovercraft third. So he did end up with hovercrafts either way. So both players are on hovercrafts now. Let's see. Try not to miss anything. Lordvedor is sending some more scouts. More hovercraft scouts. Oh no! These aren't scouts. This is the Salamander, which is it's a core flamethrower hovercraft, which is a unique unit to escalation. It's these are like the skirmish hovercrafts, but they are also still very good at raiding because they're relatively fast and they have more health than the scrubbers, and they do quite a bit of damage. As you can see here, they're just tanking these defenders and. Long hair don't care all day, all night. They're just going to come through here and take out everything. I don't think it would be able to take out this LLT, but he did do quite a bit of damage. He did take out all the defenders and these metal extractors. So seems like those are worth their weight in gold. Lordvedor is pushing here with his AKs, but I don't think he probably expected much to come from that. Both players are just going to create this... This is essentially the equivalent of trench warfare, right? Neither player is going to be crossing the land bridge anytime soon. So they're going to have to be using their hovercraft to find different paths of approach. And speaking of that, Rampage has got the Wombat, which is it's a long-range missile hovercraft. It acts similar to the... what are they called? The Merles? So these are kind of like the hovercraft version of a Merle. They have a vertical missile launcher is what they're called. In Forged Alliance, they'd be called tactical missile launchers. But essentially, these are almost useless in combat with other units, but they're great for standoffish defense, anti-structure. And it looks like... Lordvedor has the same idea. Now we're just having a battle of hover missile launchers, hover tactical missile launchers or vertical missile launchers, which is kind of amusing to see. But Lordvedor is building a Punisher here, and the Punishers are very good. They're going to be able to outrange these things. And if he can finish this Punisher, he'll be pretty well protected. Rampage either needs to kill this Punisher or get out. Essentially, those are his two options because that Punisher is going to outrange these wombats, and it's going to do incredible damage. But he still could come down here. Part of the problem with any kind of strategy like this is that you need sufficient radar to be able to shoot at your opponent's structures because the wombats don't have great vision range. They can shoot a heck of a lot further than they can actually see. So he would need some proper radar or scout planes or something to be able to spot that Punisher so he could take it out, or to find an alternate path of attack. But okay, let's look at the economies here. Almost dead even. That's kind of what I expected. Both players on about 85 metal per second, which is pretty good for this point in the game. Energy looks like Rampage has a little more energy. Let's look at their what they're building here. Lordvedor is still on T1. Just kind of looks like upgrading his economy, building some defenses around his base, which is pretty smart. Like I said, hovercraft can attack from any angle. He has gone for... Oh, I was wrong. Here's the advance. He does have... I was looking for T2. It's like, I know he's got to have a T2 somewhere. He's gone for the advanced hover plant. So he's going T2 hovers. That's very exciting. I think T2 hovers are a unique unit, and TA Escalation has added the T2 hovercraft to the game. And now Lordvedor is trying to push the middle. Like I said before, I don't think you're going to be able to push the middle. But let me slow it down. I don't think pushing the land bridge is a great idea. But, you know, he seems to be... He's attempting it. He's going to try to get through the middle here. And meanwhile, we have a battle of hovercraft. We have a Berserker, which is the advanced hovercraft, the core battle hovercraft, T2. Anyways, as I was saying earlier, T2 hovercraft is a Escalation exclusive tech. I mean, it's a... Well, I won't say it's exclusive to Escalation. I'm sure there's other mods that have had it, but what I'm saying is that it wasn't an original TA, the T2 hovercraft. So it's really neat to see these being used in a game. Obviously, this Berserker is very powerful. If Lordvedor can get into his opponent's base here, this is all I won't say lightly defended. I mean, there's a wall of light laser towers here. It's nothing to scoff at, but against this composition of Nixers and Berserker and Scalpels, I mean, all this hovercraft action, this just isn't really going to cut it. And so really Rampage needs to be bringing over his units ASAP, because this is just not going to cut the muster. This is just too much. But yeah, Lordvedor is kind of going more towards the center with his stuff. I think maybe he should kind of go up the right side. I think it would have been better to just kind of go up the side here where there's no defense at all. Of course, you know, it's easy for me to say that. I have God mode on, right? I mean, I can see everything, but even still, he's kind of doing a coordinated attack. He's pushing forward with his storms, and he's also pushing here with his hovercraft up the middle. And it's working okay. As I said before, I'm just not so sure about even using that land bridge at all. I don't think you're really going to get much accomplished. But at very least, he provided a distraction. He distracted Rampage long enough to give his hovercraft time to sneak up here and to closer to the core, the foundation of Rampage's base, and maybe he can get something done. But here again we have Bulldogs, and as I said before, Bulldogs are kind of the bane of low health units, especially low health units that are clumped together. And so these Nixers don't have the most health. The Berserkers would actually be decent against Bulldogs. They wouldn't be bad at all, but you would need more than one. Even if you just had 3 or 4 of these would be a formidable force even for Bulldogs. But yeah, the problem is that the Nixers themselves are just going to get eaten alive. So it looks like that attack was mostly thwarted, but he did achieve quite a bit. He took out some metal. He took out the force that was defending here, and most of the defenses except for these 2 bulwarks. But ultimately, it's still a really even game. And okay, so yeah, at the beginning of the cast I said, "Oh, I'm not gonna miss things this time, guys, I swear." But I actually missed. While all this was going on, Rampage had sent an attack force of Tritons down the left side of the map here, and took out a ton of Lordvedor's economy. It was mostly just economy over there, so metal extractors, and there was a Geo over there and things like that. But Tritons are arms amphibious T2 tank. So he just went under the water. He snuck down here while I was watching the battle happen at the top, and he just did a lot of economic damage. I think that's pretty much all that happened. I think that's all I missed. It was just this legion of Tritons coming down here and taking out all of this eco on the left side. So that was pretty effective. Both players kind of making an impact on the other player's economy. But the problem is, as you can see, Rampage did a better job. You can see this whole bottom left part of the map is pretty much empty. And while Lordvedor did take out some of Rampage's stuff, you can see that this right part of the map still, for the most part, is saturated with metal extractors. Though there is a single scalpel here that's coming through. You know, if he just kind of micros it to take out all this stuff. It is difficult when you're doing 100 things at once, but ultimately what that has resulted in is that Rampage is now on 90 metal a second and Lordvedor is on 60. And I really just think that's because Rampage was he was more successful with his raid, with his Tritons. They kind of, like I said, snuck down. They were so sneaky, in fact, that even I didn't see them. And they snuck down and took out all of this metal, all of the energy here, and so caused quite a bit of economic damage. But in terms of composition, I still favor what Lordvedor has here. I mean, I think these Berserkers are very good against Bulldogs. As you can see, the Bulldogs can't even get in range. These Berserkers are just kind of... they're basically mobile Doomsday Machines, which is the core T2 just Omni defense that's kind of great against everything. And this is just this a floating Doomsday Machine. And even Rampage in the chat, you can see, is frustrated. He's like, "What the heck? How are these Berserkers outranging my Bulldogs?" But like I said, he's got a great composition. These Berserkers can do a lot of damage, and if he just had a couple more even, he might be able to just take out this whole part of the map. Unfortunately, with 2, there's only so much you can get done. Yeah, Lordvedor's responding, well, they're expensive. And I hope they are expensive, because, damn, they're incredibly powerful. Like I said, they're mobile Doomsday devices, or Doomsday Machines. And they might be able to do something here. If he continues moving north, he could get into the production of Rampage, and then if he starts taking out the production, he would kind of strike a crippling blow onto his opponent. But it looks like Rampage is responding with penetrators. Penetrators are very good, with a very good counter to Berserkers. Meanwhile, in the middle, it looks like Rampage brought down an army of Bulldogs through the middle of the map here and took out all of the defenses that Lordvedor had there. Now, I don't think he's going to get that much else accomplished. As I've said from the beginning of this game, I don't think the land bridge is really the way you want to go in this game. It's just too easy to defend. And even if you can break through the defenses, the player can just rebuild them, and you just wasted a ton of... you wasted a lot more metal attempting to break those defenses than it costs to build the defenses. So Rampage did break through here, but it doesn't look like he accomplished too much. And meanwhile, we still have this Berserker down here, but this Penetrator should be able to slowly outrange it and take it out. Let's just kind of watch this. Let's see how much damage it does with one shot. Oh my gosh, did it miss? I didn't see its health bar change at all. Okay, that time it hit. Yeah, it took out about a third of its health with one shot. It must have missed the first time. So yeah, the Penetrator will eventually kill those Berserkers. This is a really good counter to the Berserker, because Berserker is incredibly powerful, and obviously it's a good counter to Bulldogs, but it's also slow, and the Penetrators outrange it. So both players doing really well. I mean, this is still a very close game. Let's look at the bases real quick. We have advanced hover plant still just producing scalpels here. Scalpels are it's the T2 Raider, I think, of the core hovercraft. You know, they're relatively fast, and they have 2 green lasers, so they can kind of get around the opponent's base and you know, get into their economy and do a lot of damage. They're still relatively tanky though, because they're T2 hovercraft, so pretty well rounded. This is a pretty well rounded T2 hovercraft, but it's still not going to, like against bulldogs, for example, they would just get mutilated. We have advanced construction hovercraft here. We can just assume he's building underwater moho makers, metal makers with this. And let's see. What else is going on with Rampage? Rampage is now going for his own hovercraft platform. He's upgrading his economy. And what else? Yeah, at this point in the game, I think we've just kind of hit a short break in the action while the players rebuild their forces and just kind of upgrade their economies. At the moment, let's look at metal production. It looks like Rampage is on about 100 per second, and Lordvedor is also on about 100 per second. I think their economies are pretty close. This game could go either way. It really could. It's been a pretty close battle, back and forth the whole time. Rampage's successful Triton push did a lot of damage, but then Lordvedor did a really good job with his Berserker push on this side. He did quite a bit of damage, and so both players have done their fair share of imposing on their opponents, doing economy damage, and while also continuing to upgrade their technology and expand their production. So at this point, it's still a really close game. I can't say either way. It kind of depends on the choices they make from this point. T3 isn't out of the question. In fact, I expect to see T3 from here. T3 does have amphibious units, so they could build like a T3 amphibious that would allow them to surprise their opponents. Someone could just win that way. Air, either of them could still go heavily into air. Advanced air is an option here. Even things like Big Berthas are options, nukes. There's a ton of options from this position for either player. And it looks like Rampage is kind of being a little... he's being a little sneaky with these penetrators. He's just trying to kind of poke out his opponent, get some cheap shots off with them and then back off. But looks like he wasn't really paying attention. He wasn't microing this one, so it's going to die. But... yeah, Rampage is now building a Bertha. I just mentioned that, and as if on cue, he's building a Bertha here near the middle, probably just so that it can cover the whole map. If he builds it here, he can hit most of Lordvedor's base. So this isn't a bad option. Like I said, the middle is going to be very hard to break, and so even though building in the middle might seem strange, it's pretty well protected. And Lordvedor's building some Dominators here. Dominators are they're good for taking out defense. They're not bad in this situation, but as I've said before, I just don't think going down the middle is really a good idea for either player. So on the left side, we got Berserkers going for another push, another pass to the left side. And let's see, what does he have to defend? He's got a lot of spiders. These spiders could definitely paralyze the Berserkers. We'll see what happens. Let's see. There's a fight going on in the mid too. Let me slow it down. So there's two fights happening right now. There's one in the mid, and then there's one on the left side. And it looks like one of these Berserkers just got taken out. He has a Hailstorm, which I believe is the arm equivalent. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's the arm equivalent of the Berserker. So these are incredibly beefy missile spam T2 hovercraft, and they're going to paralyze this Berserker and take it out. So that wasn't so successful, but neither was the fight in the mid. Neither player really got that much accomplished here, so we're still kind of at parity. I mean, we're still in a situation where both players are kind of feeling out their opponents, looking for an opening, looking for a vulnerability to exploit. But so far, neither player has really been able to make much headway into their opponent's base, which I expect to change soon. I mean, we do have a big Bertha coming up right now, which could do some serious damage. So another big fight in the middle, but again, I don't think much is going to get accomplished. Berserker coming up from the left side. Might be able to take out a penetrator, but no, he couldn't even get one. And these penetrators are going to push forward. They might be able to get something done, but oh, we got a Nemesis now coming up from the right side. Yeah, he took one out. Dominators are pushing in. Dominators are decent against penetrators. They can't quite match their range, but if you can get them into range, they'll do quite a bit of damage. Mortys are pretty good in this situation too. Rampage is slowly pushing forward with these penetrators, with this hailstorm, and making a dent. And you know, maybe I'm going to eat my words. Maybe it was a good idea to push down the middle with penetrators, but yeah, Rampage is doing it. He's being very effective with his penetrators, with these spiders, with this hailstorms. He's now got Panthers coming in the back, and he's done it, man. That's it's not the strategy I would have chosen, but it's working, and it's pretty impressive. So at this point, Lordvedor is on the back foot. He needs to find a way to stop this push. He has to find a way to stop his opponent from just rolling into his base with this army of stuff. I think he could probably take out this front wave of spiders and hovercraft. But the problem is these penetrators. This is what have been slowly killing him. They outrange everything he's building. They essentially outrange everything Core has on T2, and they're just being a general nuisance for Venom to deal with, and they're slowly kind of picking him apart. All the units in front, all this stuff is just kind of acting as fodder, so that the penetrators can slowly pick apart his base. And yeah, I'm surprised how effective this has been. Penetrators aren't the tankiest. If you can get up to them, they're pretty easily killed. But the problem is, if you can't get in range of them, they will just slowly annihilate your force. You know, they'll slowly, through a war of attrition, take out everything you have, and then that's essentially what we've seen is just this group of penetrators causing all kinds of havoc in Lordvedor's base. It looked like, I think it was just a scout, you know, unless I'm wrong, but I think that he had just scouted up here, and the scouts got shot down. Now he's sending some hurricanes to kill these penetrators. It's not a bad idea. Hurricanes can kill the penetrators. They can fly over them and just drop their payload, and that will kill them. But the problem is now that Rampage is kind of coming from every angle with these hailstorms. He's coming down the right side. He might be able to take out this advanced hover plant, which would be pretty devastating. Let's look at the mega map. Yeah, as you can see, Rampage is just kind of collapsing on Lordvedor here, and Lordvedor is in a very difficult spot. Let's see what he's building. He's got some advanced construction hovercraft here, but they're not doing much. Rampage is pushing down the left side here with a pretty small force, but the problem is Lordvedor doesn't really have much to stop it. And in the back you have some hailstorms, and these are quite hard to kill. So this whole left side of the map is basically gone for Lordvedor, which means the only thing he has left is his production here. He does have a neutralizer, which I think is what he used earlier. I missed it, but I think he used this neutralizer to finally take out that group of penetrators. He just kind of landed it in the middle of it, in the middle of them, and did a ton of damage, which allowed him to clean those up. But the problem is that the damage had already been done. His base is slowly being picked apart by Rampage's just mix of kind of ragtag forces, and it feels like there's really not much else he can do. Really, those penetrators won the game, I think. That's the problem with penetrators. It's very hard for Core to deal with. Okay, he's launching another nuke. Not a nuke, a tactical nuke, neutralizer missile. And that did pretty good damage, but it's just not going to be enough. And yeah, it feels like Rampage is just slowly kind of tightening the noose here. And again, yeah, I think those penetrators are what won the game. Even I was shocked that he was able to push through the middle. As I said, I wouldn't advise that on this map, but he just outranged him with penetrators, took out all his defenses, took out all the big threats, all the berserkers that came up the side, all the nemesis. And by the time Venom was able to deal with penetrators, his base had already been kind of cracked open, and his economy was in shambles. And but really, both players did a really good game. There was definitely points that I felt like Lordvedor was going to win. I think going advanced hovercraft first was really a brilliant thing to do, and he got a lot accomplished with the hovercraft. Like I said, there was a point earlier in the game where Rampage was so upset with Lordvedor because the berserkers outranged the bulldogs, but you know, I mean, I think all is fair in love and war, right? And so this Big Bertha it's probably been done for a while now. I haven't really been keeping tabs on what it's shooting at, but let's see. Yeah, it just did a landed on the K-Bot Gantry. Of course, these have a lot of health, so it takes a while to kill K-Bot Gantry. But he is just going to continue to slowly melt away at this base. You know, even if the Bertha shots don't hit their target, they'll usually destroy everything around their target. And yeah, ultimately that Bertha is just going to continue to cause damage to his base, irreversible damage to his base over time, even if it doesn't win the game by itself. And on the left side, Rampage is just slowly pushing in. From this point, I'm just not sure there's that much Lordvedor can do. He has built a Widow here. Let's see what this thing does. It might be... I mean, it's a valiant attempt, right? It's trying. It's the little spider who could, but yeah, even Lordvedor has noticed. He says, I guess this is the end. And Rampage admits, you almost got me. So it was a very close game. Both players should be proud, I think. They both did a really good job. The game could have gone either way. At different points, either player was in the lead, and at different points they crippled each other's economy, and they both were very creative, very ingenuitive with their strategies. Again, this is what I love about Escalation, is that there is just such a huge diversity, a huge arsenal of strategies that you can use against your opponent. On this map, I mean, there was a ton of things we didn't even see that they could have done. They could have actually built C. They could have air could have played a bigger role. They could have actually gone into gunships or T3 air. They could have gone for T3. Neither player really got. I mean, at the end of the game, Lordvedor did have some T3, but they could have definitely advanced to T3 and gone full-on Krogoth or whatever it was. Or, as I was saying earlier, the T3 amphibious units, those could have caused massive damage. I mean, the possibilities are almost endless, but the players were very creative. It was interesting to watch how they kind of cracked this chestnut, if you want to use that alliteration. As I said before, I really didn't think going down the middle was the way to do it, but it worked out for Rampage. He did a really good job of breaking that defensive line and then slowly pushing into Lordvedor's base, but Lordvedor did a really good job of utilizing his T2 hovercraft as well. And overall, it was a great game, great series. Great job to both players. Congratulations to Rampage for moving on. And I'm excited to cast more games. Thanks for watching, guys.